Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of the United States bombing Iran. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the incident, then offer my analysis. The nation of Iran is governed by an authoritarian theocracy, which is dominated by unelected clerics. The country has a long history of human rights violations, including public executions and the incarceration of journalists, protesters, and activists. Historically, Iran has been hostile toward the United States and toward Israel. The country is the largest state sponsor of terrorism and has maintained ambitions of acquiring nuclear weapons. Since 2011, Donald Trump has maintained that Iran should not be allowed to obtain nuclear weapons. In 2015, Iran agreed to restrict its nuclear program to support only peaceful endeavors in exchange for the relief of economic sanctions. In 2018, Donald Trump exited this deal and reimposed heavy sanctions on Iran. In response, the country restarted some of its nuclear operations. In February 2025, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. He talked about how Iran had increased its stockpile of uranium and was making advances in centrifuge technology. Benjamin Netanyahu believed that Iran was very close to obtaining nuclear weapons. In May 2025, the International Atomic Energy Agency issued a frightening report. Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium had increased dramatically. Since February, the supply increased almost 50%. If this uranium was enriched further, it would be enough for multiple nuclear weapons. The agency accused Iran of violating an agreement not to conceal the development of nuclear material and censured the country on June 12, 2025. Iran responded to the censure by revealing the construction of a new uranium enrichment facility at a secret location. On the next day, June 13, 2025, Israel attacked nuclear and military sites in Iran, indicating that the Iranian nuclear program represented an existential threat. Now moving to the timeline of the incident. On Saturday, June 21, 2025, at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time, several B-2 Spirit bombers took off from Whitman Air Force Base in Missouri. 7 bombers headed east, while a few other bombers headed west as decoys. This was the beginning of Operation Midnight Hammer. The destination of the 7 bombers that were flying to the east was over 7,000 miles away in Iran. A number of tankers were positioned along the route to Iran to refuel the B-2 bombers. The bombers were equipped with GBU-57 MOP bombs. The MOP stands for Massive Ordnance Penetrator. This 30,000-pound precision-guided bomb was designed to destroy targets deep underground and in hardened bunkers. The B-2 bomber is the only aircraft equipped to carry the MOP, and each bomber can carry 2 of them. At 5 p.m. Eastern Time, the B-2 bombers entered airspace controlled by U.S. Central Command and linked up with fighter aircraft. The job of these fighters was to escort the bombers into Iran and to function as decoys. As this was happening, a U.S. Navy submarine launched 30 Tomahawk cruise missiles at the Isfahan nuclear facility in Iran. They were timed to strike the facility right after the B-2 bombers dropped ordnance on other locations. The B-2 bombers entered Iranian airspace at about 6 p.m., and starting at 6:40 p.m., they attacked 2 facilities. In local time, this was after 2 a.m. 6 B-2 bombers dropped 12 MOP bombs on the Fordow uranium enrichment plant. 1 B-2 bomber dropped 2 MOP bombs on the Natanz nuclear facility. This is the first time the MOP was used in combat. Over 75 precision-guided munitions were deployed during the operation, including the 14 MOPs. In total, over 125 aircraft were involved in the mission, including the 7 B-2 bombers that attacked Iran. All these aircraft survived the mission undamaged. None of the aircraft were engaged by the Iranian military, probably because the Israeli military had destroyed Iran's anti-aircraft capabilities. On the same day as the attack, June 21, Donald Trump claimed that the nuclear enrichment facilities had been completely and totally obliterated and the strikes were a spectacular military success. Furthermore, he advised Iran to seek peace, stating that more attacks would be on the way if they refused. At the time I am making this video, many people are concerned that the U.S. has started a war which may last for a long time. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. As far as the military action, the B-2 bomber has been the focus of this story. The B-2 is an extremely advanced four-engine flying wing aircraft which entered service in 1997. Each aircraft only has 2 crew members, a pilot and a mission commander. The B-2 is 69 feet long, 172 feet wide, has a service ceiling of 50,000 feet, and has a maximum takeoff weight of 376,000 pounds. It carries 167,000 pounds of fuel and can fly 6,900 miles without refueling. As far as weapon capabilities, the B-2 has 2 ordnance bays with a maximum payload of 60,000 pounds in total. The main selling point of the B-2 is its stealth capabilities. Due to its unique design, it has reduced visual, acoustic, infrared, and radar signatures. The purpose of the aircraft is to fly deep, penetrating missions into enemy territory and precisely deploy munitions. For the most part, designers were thinking about penetrating Russian airspace. The B-2 was inspired by the Cold War. 21 B-2 bombers were produced, 19 are currently in service. One was lost in 2008 when it crashed right after takeoff in Guam. The pilots ejected and survived. Moisture in the port transducer unit caused the flight control computer to incorrectly calculate the airspeed, which in turn caused the aircraft to pitch upward 30 degrees. Another B-2 bomber was taken out of service after a mysterious incident in 2022. There was some type of fire, but it's really not clear what happened. The government said it would be too expensive to repair the aircraft. The unusual shape of the B-2, the flying wing design, makes it very unstable in the air. The pilots are aided by significant flight management technology, which is highly automated. The B-2 is an impressive instrument of annihilation, but it is also a money pit. In 1997, each plane cost $929 million. Every month, $3.4 million is spent to maintain each aircraft. For every 1 hour of flight time, the B-2 requires 119 man-hours of maintenance. Much of this maintenance is because the stealth coating of the aircraft is extremely delicate. It can be degraded by insects, dust, fingerprints, and weather. To offer a comparison as far as the maintenance requirements, the B-52 Stratofortress, a 4-engine bomber best known for its role in the Vietnam War, requires 53 man-hours of maintenance for every 1 hour of flight time. In my opinion, the B-2 is an amazing aircraft, but the United States probably did not need it. Item number 2. There are conflicting reports about how much damage was done to the nuclear facilities in Iran. As I mentioned, right after the attack, Donald Trump indicated the sites were obliterated. A few days later, on June 24, 2025, the media reported the findings from a bomb damage assessment, which was produced by the Defense Intelligence Agency. The assessment indicated the attack did not destroy the core components of the Iranian nuclear facilities. For example, the centrifuges, which are necessary to produce enriched uranium, remained largely intact. The attack probably set Iran's nuclear program back by a few months, not a few years. The Trump administration disagreed with the findings. The White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, said, quote, "This alleged assessment is flat out wrong and was classified as top secret, but was still leaked to CNN by an anonymous, low-level loser in the intelligence community," unquote. Later, she said the leak was illegal and the offender should go to jail. As a side note, low-level loser is a strong term. Sounds like somebody might be seriously shortchanged at the next White House Secret Santa gift exchange. The priority target in the military operation was probably the Fordo uranium enrichment plant. This facility is almost 300 feet underground. Satellite images taken before and after the attack showed 2 groups of 3 holes in the ground, which were consistent with MOP entry points. A single MOP can only penetrate up to 200 feet. but there is a tactic which can extend the range. One MOP is dropped into the ground, then another MOP is dropped into the hole created by the first MOP, functionally extending the range of the weapon system. This requires a great deal of precision, but it can be done. Using this method, the MOP bombs could have reached the core of the Fordo plant. Based on the satellite images, it looks like this tactic was successful. Again, 12 MOP bombs were dropped on Fordo, but there are only 6 holes visible. The math checks out. 2 bombs for every 1 hole in the ground. It stands to reason that the facility was badly damaged, but there is no way to know at this point. Another concern here is that even if the facility was severely damaged, this may not be enough to significantly slow down Iran's nuclear program. For example, not long before the attack, cargo trucks were spotted at the Fordo facility. These vehicles may have been transporting enriched uranium to another location. Item number 3. Was it a good idea for the U.S. to bomb Iran? There are a lot of strong opinions on this topic. Many Democrats and some Republicans believe that Iran did not represent an imminent threat to American interests. There was no reason to bomb them. They argued that Donald Trump's actions were unconstitutional. One major concern is how Iran will respond to the aggression. The bombing embarrassed a backward and erratic regime, led by cowardly and sometimes delusional leaders who possess poor judgment and a strong desire to annihilate perceived enemies. Who knows how they might react? On the other side of the coin, many Israelis are very pleased with the attack. Benjamin Netanyahu said, quote, "History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons," unquote. He thought the attack was a historic turning point. A poll conducted by the Washington Post found that 45% of Americans were opposed to the attack, 25% supported it, and 30% were unsure. In my opinion, the attack was probably not a good idea. Donald Trump has been a longtime critic of the U.S. military being active in the Middle East, yet he was willing to start a war there. I think that Trump attacked Iran because he wanted to demonstrate solidarity with Israel. It's also possible that Trump was looking for an opportunity to seem strong and victorious. He wanted a definitive win. Nothing says, "I am powerful and successful," quite like sending overpriced strategic bombers to a terrorist haven to blow up some centrifuges. Iran is a massive country with a vast and deeply rooted physical and ideological infrastructure. It's hard to imagine that bombing campaigns represent an effective strategy in the long run. The knowledge, materials, and willpower to build nuclear weapons are not confined to a few facilities. The sites in Iran are dispersed, protected, and will be continuously rebuilt. Eventually, Iran will probably find a way to construct nuclear weapons. This reality exposes the limitations of relying on military force alone to prevent the threat. The true challenge lies not just in destroying centrifuges, but in addressing the underlying fears, motivations, narcissism, and regional dynamics that drive Iran's pursuit of nuclear capability. This situation calls for deterrence, dialogue, and diplomacy more so than endless provocation. Those are my thoughts on the United States bombing Iran. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.